Welcome to This Month in Connecticut History. This month, we'll look at the stories, events, and headlines from September that stand out as some of Connecticut's most noteworthy pieces of history.
A passionate night of protesting here in the Elm City, which started right here on the Green and then traveled several miles throughout the city. New Haven Mayor Justin Elicker among those saying what happened to Breonna Taylor was wrong and the officers should be held accountable. United in anger, demands for justice, and hope for change. Hundreds spoke out, stood up, and marched for hours throughout the streets of New Haven. Demonstrators here expressing similar sentiments being felt around the state and nation, a day after the announcement that no officers were charged with the death of Breonna Taylor.
The fact that they are being indicted for shooting a wall and not the actual woman, that's like an absolutely disgusting situation. And I think it's my duty to show up for this. As a biracial woman, that could have been anyone in my family.
Before taking their message throughout the city, people rallied on the New Haven Green.
Say her name!
So I just feel I have to come and show my support because we're tired of what's happening in the country in general, but I feel something has to be done.
Many here are growing increasingly frustrated by a system they feel has failed too many people of color.
And it's not okay what's going on in this world, and I'm white privileged. I'm gonna stand up, I'm gonna stand in front of anybody that's indifferent.
Rebecca LaQuire is an art teacher in New Haven and painted this portrait of Breonna Taylor.
I want them to see her and think and remember her and say her name. It's that simple.
Today, Governor Ned Lamont also weighing in, saying that Taylor died needlessly. He adds this serves as a reminder that everything possible needs to be done to protect those like her. In New Haven, Matt Austin, NBC, Connecticut News.
Time since the start of the pandemic, COVID-19 testing is now landing at Bradley International Airport.
I think it would be absolutely 100% convenient.
Starting this afternoon, passengers coming into Connecticut or heading out to another state are able to get tested at the COVID-19 testing site the day of their travel.
This is one of very few testing sites in the country that are now located right at an airport terminal.
Connecticut Airport Authority Executive Director Kevin Dillon says the Genesis Diagnostic Site has the ability to handle 45 to 50 people at a time, and the results from the nasal swabs are available within 24 hours.
Went to Oklahoma a couple times, just came back from Columbus, Ohio.
Passengers like Brian Sismazik, an essential worker, have had to travel for work throughout the pandemic, including to one hotspot state. He, like anyone else coming from one of those states, must have a negative COVID test result 72 hours before traveling or any time after they land in Connecticut or quarantine for 2 weeks. He says the testing site is a one-stop shop for those traveling during the pandemic.
You don't have to go to a second place to go get it. You get the COVID test, get on the plane.
Dillon says passengers traveling from hotspot states must still fill out the travel advisory form. The Department of Public Health says so far thousands of people have submitted the forms to DPH, and as of last week there have been at least 40 fines issued for violators.
I think it would be absolutely 100% convenient.
The tests are covered by most insurance plans or will cost $125 per test, a new airport advantage for travelers amid the pandemic.
It was just unbelievable, just unbelievable.
Garrison Leakum says he's still in a state of shock one day after the Cessna 560XL jet flew over his head before crashing into the Trump building.
It was like a nightmare, and to be that close to it and to see it firsthand and to hear it and to smell it was just beyond belief.
The FAA says the crash happened shortly before 10 o'clock after taking off at the Robertson Airport. Farmington police released the names of the victims, which included pilots William O'Leary and Mark Murrow of Connecticut, and passengers Courtney Haviland and her husband William Schrauner from Boston.
It's something that just rips you apart inside, and you're left with this overwhelming feeling of helplessness.
During the course of the day, investigators from the FAA and the NTSB sifted through the wreckage, removing large sections of the plane and debris while searching for clues that could help provide some clarity. According to Farmington police, there was a mechanical issue during the takeoff sequence. We also learned that while all Trump employees were accounted for, 2 workers are recovering from injuries.
We're here for them, and we want them to know that we that sense of empathy coming through in a good firm like ours.
Burke Dorr is the senior vice president at the manufacturing company and is glad to see that the community is rallying together after this latest devastation.
It was really very humbling to see all that. And it's such a generous spirit in the world when something tragic like this happens.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Lucivero with a look at this month in Connecticut sports history. For the month of September, we're taking you out to East Hartford onto Rentschler Field for a memorable matchup that set a record before the game even began. It was September 21st, 2013 when the Huskies hosted the Michigan Wolverines, who were ranked 15th in the nation when they came to Connecticut. UConn led by 7 at the half thanks to 2 TD passes by Chandler Whitmer, and the team kept its lead until about 10 minutes were left in the game. The Huskies came up empty in the 4th quarter, while Michigan rallied with a late field goal to win the game 24-21. The game, though, made history. A crowd of 42,704 people were on hand for the big game, making it the most attended sellout home game in UConn football history. Not too bad for a stadium that only has 40,000 seats. So that's your look at a record-setting Saturday in Connecticut sports history. But for more sports headlines, both past and present, stick with NBC Connecticut.
Hi everyone, I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Hanrahan with a look at this month in Connecticut weather history. On September 21st, 1938, people across New England woke up with no idea a monster hurricane was barreling up the coast. The hurricane of 38 struck with a fury that New England hadn't seen since the 1600s and hasn't seen since. The hurricane made landfall near New Haven. The storm brought maximum sustained winds of 115 miles per hour to Connecticut, along with a barometric pressure of 946 millibars, both records for the state. The hurricane strengthened into a Category 5 storm off the east coast of the United States. The storm accelerated up the coast, slamming into Long Island while moving at nearly 50 miles per hour. This is how the hourly weather map looked at 3 p.m. as the hurricane lashed Connecticut. The Connecticut River reached its second highest crest on record, flooding towns and cities including Hartford and Middletown. Along the shoreline, a storm surge over 10 feet decimated coastal villages and communities. Few homes and cottages here in Crescent Beach and East Lyme were spared. In White Sands Beach and Old Lyme, the sound poured inland, tearing up homes up and down the beach. In Guilford, the town green was shredded. The majority of trees toppled, uprooted, or stripped of their leaves. The hurricane's destruction continued inland. Entire forests were wiped out. This was the view in Willimantic, where winds over 100 miles per hour snapped trees for miles and miles. The hurricane of 1938 remains one of the most violent storms to hit Connecticut. More than 600 people died from the hurricane, including nearly 100 in the state. That's your look at one of the biggest weather events in Connecticut history this month. I'm Ryan Hanrahan. Stay with NBC Connecticut for all your weather headlines, both past and present.
Still to come on This Month in Connecticut History, we'll make a stop in Middlesex County, taking a look at one town's tradition that has been bringing the community together for more than a century. But first, the infamous Revolutionary War general was born in Connecticut. Do you know which town he hailed from? The answer after the break.
Coventry sort of dives to the south along the river. So there's Coventry, there's Route 31. If you're at the Bidwell Tavern having some wings right now, looking to the north, you probably got a nice little storm coming in. I think it stays just north of the center of Coventry, but it's going to come close to Storr. So here's Yukon, here's 44. If there is a tornado, there it is.
I'm Taylor Kinsler from CT Live, bringing you this month's Community Connection. We're taking a look back at events that are part of the fabric of our state's history. Typically held during the last weekend of September, the Durham Fair has been an annual tradition for more than a century. What started as a one-day event has expanded to a four-day extravaganza, featuring concerts, tractor pulls, kids' activities, and plenty of food. Organizers say it's one of the largest fairs in North America, run entirely by unpaid volunteers. Another favorite, the Closer to Free ride. Hope rides with us, and for more than a decade, the cycling event has raised funds to support research and care for cancer patients in our state.
It brings people together from all different age groups. Beginners, moderately experienced, avid riders who share this vision of a world without cancer, a world that's cancer-free.
From beginners to seasoned pros, there are courses designed for every rider with the big finish line at the Yale Bowl. NBC Connecticut has served as a sponsor of the annual ride, and we are always honored to participate. Thanks for joining us for the September edition of Community Connection. We'll see you next time.
It's a big day for local sports. The Yukon Huskies play Maine tonight at 7 o'clock in East Hartford. Our own Kevin Nathan is live at the Rent with the new Husky tradition that should get some players and some fans pumped up before the game. Kevin?
Yeah, Angela, pretty neat thing here at Rentschler Field as one of the Yukon captains had this idea of a new tradition forming for Yukon football, a way to integrate the fans and the players. About 2 hours and 15 minutes before kickoff tonight, the team taking part in the first ever Husky Walk. This new pregame ritual that Captain Dan Davis came up with allows the fans to cheer on the team as they exit the bus at Gate D and walk up to Gate C before heading into the locker room. The Husky Walk gives the crowd and the fans a chance to fire up the Huskies.
I think it's wonderful that we're able to have a chance to see them close up and to cheer them on. That was a nice feeling to be able to do that.
This is great for tradition up here. Let's get it started. I think and more people attend, it's going to be great. Okay.
Well, I hope that kicker Tony Cheravino is accurate. We just had one that was wide left and nearly took out our photographer Dan Lee. The Husky Walk went well. As for tonight's game, it may not be a cakewalk for the Huskies. Maine comes in with a lot of confidence based on what they've done the last few seasons against Division I teams. That story later in sports. Reporting live in East Hartford at Rentschler Field for the Huskies home opener, Kevin Nathan, NBC 30 Sports. Anjali, back to you.
Have you seen the monument in Groton? Well, here's what it says.
This monument was erected under the patronage of the state of Connecticut, AD 1830, and in the 55th year of the independence of the USA, in memory of the brave patriots who fell in the massacre at Fort Griswold near this spot on the 6th of September AD 1781, when the British, under the command of the traitor Benedict Arnold, burnt the towns of New London and Groton and spread desolation and woe throughout this region.
The Battle of Groton Heights took place on September 6, 1781 in Groton and New London. The British troops were led by General Benedict Arnold, who was raised in Norwich, Connecticut. The traitorous general won the battle against his former Connecticut neighbors, but the Americans would win the war, taking a decisive victory in the Battle of Yorktown just a few weeks later.
I've actually attended the Haddam Neck Fair my entire life. We're not going to say how many years. So we're very proud of the heritage that we have.
For me, it's the exhibits. I'd love to see the kids and even adults bring in their collections and their vegetables and their flowers. They are so proud of what they grew. The fair is important because kids should know that milk comes from a cow, not a store.
Volunteerism has really fallen off a lot in recent years, and I think this is important for the community because it does give them the chance to go and give back. I know that the fair contributes to a number of organizations and has scholarships and supports many groups throughout the town of Haddam and East Hampton. And so I think this is an opportunity for them to feel like they're doing something good. That's important for the community.
People in Haddam Neck really look forward to it. We have a lot of volunteers. In fact, the whole fair is volunteers. And we have work nights every Wednesday night. We have good turnout for work nights. And it's just, again, the whole community feels part of the fair. And I think that's one of the important aspects of it.
And I think my favorite part is just seeing everybody. There's people I've seen there every year since I was born, and it's, I see them other times, but it's nice to sort of, when we all get back together, sort of like an old home day. And it's nice to catch up and see people you hadn't seen in a long time, and I'm in great anticipation for it every year. I really look forward to it.
Thanks for watching This Month in Connecticut History and our look back at September. Follow NBC Connecticut for updates on more stories from our state's history and get the best coverage of Connecticut's past and present.